1 o'clock, so good afternoon, everyone. Why don't we start this meeting of the Walker Mineral Mining Review Board? So we'll call the meeting to order. Second item on the agenda is what we call general public comment, and this is an Open Meetings Act situation where if you have any comments that you would like to address to this board, feel free to come on up to the podium, and if you would state your name and address or location, and we'll go from there. There will be public hearing opportunities with each of these sand mines if you have specific questions, but this is more for general public comment, not related to items on the agenda. So, any general public comment today? All right, so we will go through. And item number 3 is the review of our meeting minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes from February 21st, 2023. We had an AM session and a PM session, and I think we could probably adopt those together, but I would look for a motion, discussion, and then a second on those minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, any further discussion? And let's do a vote on the minutes from last year. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. And now we get into the action items for the meeting, which are our annual mineral mining license renewals. And first, under section 4.1, we have a memo from our staff regarding our process summary. So Paula, if you'd like to walk us through that.
Thank you, Chair. We have 5 active mines that are back this year for license renewal. We will be going through them in order on a rolling basis. So thank you everyone for being in attendance today. Packets were prepared for each of the mines, including all of the documentation they provided, their application, their bond, fence certification, and their plans, as well as a short cover letter from my office. One change we made to the process this year is that we did a staff review committee that met on February 7 and went over some of the technical review, hoping to give the applicants an opportunity to revise their plans. All of them did, addressing some of those technical notes and resubmitted. So the resubmitted plans are the ones before the board today. And I believe that's all I have regarding the process.
All right, thank you, Paula. Good summary on what's going to happen today. And we'll get into our reviews at section 4.2 of the agenda. First mine to be reviewed is Meekhof Properties LLC, otherwise known as Lakeside Aggregate. And so I would ask the applicants and their engineer to come on up. Paula, I would ask if you have anything that you have to add, jump in before we open up to the applicants.
I don't have much to add. There is just a short cover letter here, as well as some aerial imagery, satellite imagery for each of the mines. And I have pulled up for the board all of the documentation and the plans, so please let me know if you'd like to see anything on the screen and I can assist with that.
All right, thank you, Paula. Why don't we open comments up and to the applicant and engineer and give us a feel of what you did last year and what you're proposing to do this year.
Okay. So what we have going on here, starting with the west pit on sheet C200, fill operation is continuing. That's been ongoing for a couple of years now, filling that slope as we move further to the east. And following that, on sheet 201 on the east pit is where we have the mining operation occurring. Material would actually be removed, continuing to work in the same places that have been ongoing. We had some notes about adjusting the tracking guard by the Hall Road, so that's on the schedule to be done this spring. Other than that, continuing on what's been ongoing for a couple of years now. Anything else?
The letter of credit, did you get that letter of credit? Because the bank said they sent it out.
Yes, we did receive the letter of credit earlier this week.
I was wondering.
Cool.
Okay. And Mr. Meekhof? Oh, go on, Mr. Meekhof.
I think we addressed most of it in our meeting on February 7th. There's nothing
Yeah.
really different what's going on here
Okay.
from previous years.
And so you were at our staff review committee where we kind of redlined your plans. You resubmitted after the red lines. So we appreciate that. So why don't we, yes.
Apologies,
Yeah.
that letter of credit that we received was for a different mine. I have not received that yet
I have
for,
a copy here.
okay, wonderful, thank you.
All right, if you'd get that to Paula before you leave, Mr. Meekhof, that'd be one less thing to check the box on. Okay, so before we get to the public hearing, why don't we open for preliminary staff comments? Anybody on the board?
Just one quick comment here, Paula. Can we make sure that podium mic's turned on? Is it? Can you try that, Chris? Oh, it
There
is.
we go.
Okay.
I wasn't,
Okay.
sorry.
Gotcha.
Well, I'll go ahead and start if you're looking for staff comments. When we met a few weeks ago for the around the table review of the plans with the mining operators, I had 6 comments. We were able to work through 3 of them at that meeting, so that left 3, and their resubmitted plans addressed all 3. So you don't have to listen to me whine up here forever about all these little issues because we worked on them earlier.
Good. Thank you, Travis. What else do we have on this side?
I think one general comment, I'd like to see you guys,
in your fill area, where you've got on the first page, under the southernmost number 2, which is on the border of phase 2 and 3, you've got quite an undercut there. And when you have an undercut like that, well, first of all, it's against the ordinance, but that's when we come in and say you've got to do action testing. If you could stay within the limits of the ordinance, you don't have to do any of that. And if you could change your reclamation contours there, you could probably get away without having to do any, because I think that can come down quite a bit. So I don't know that that's necessary today, but next time around, it'd be nice to see that you adjust those contours to limit the amount of fill that you have to put in.
Okay, I believe we had addressed this a couple years ago, and that's where there's a note about any future excavation extending 5 feet below reclamation, et cetera, and that was the note that was added to satisfy that. If you would, we could change the reclamation contours, like bring them lower, if you'd like to see that.
Do that and have reclamation.
Okay,
Action testing is very good.
okay,
You know, you really have to do that every foot to know that it's proper. And I'm pretty sure that's not happening on too many of these mines. So someday if somebody comes in here and says, oh, come on, I can put a building there, trust me. You know, we don't want that building to fall on a hole
okay.
or
So,
settle at all.
yeah,
And if you have a note on there about, you know, anything that's undercut more than 5 feet, I guess I'd go back to the fact that the ordinance doesn't allow that anyway.
okay, I would,
More of an after the fact, you slap your hand and you have to do that.
mhm.
And you get in trouble essentially, but we can't authorize it by allowing you to put that on the plan and say, you
Yeah.
can do whatever you want as long as you density test.
Okay, I would like to add, this mine is undermined by gypsum mines, so you can't develop it afterward, just in regards to the building comment. So we'll just bring those down within 5 feet of where it's at for reclamation and get that changed on the plan.
but I think the gypsum mine thing has been since the first day this board met. I mean, we know about that. We also know how things change over time. Undoubtedly, in the future, somebody's gonna try to do a couple things in here with some newer technologies maybe, but
Yeah, we'll get those contours.
we just don't wanna
changed
see it.
All right. Gary?
I just got one general comment to all the mine operators. We've been getting some complaints about jake breaking in that area again. So just everybody take note that if we can get something out to your drivers and everything else, that we limit that, I guess. So that's it.
Our newer trucks don't have jake brakes, by the way, too, so, but we know some of our customers that come in there do, so we'll try to remind them to not use their jake brakes.
So moved.
Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. Nothing further? Then would someone craft a motion to approve this mine for 2024?
Make the motion to approve the mine. Paul, did you get to the line, what you need with the credit, so everything's set that way? All right.
And do we have any conditions to add to this, other than just the license renewal for 1 year?
I think we heard some conditions from Scott, right? About-
Mine was a recommendation for next year.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll add Scott's recommendation for next year regarding undercutting and the note that they have on the plan. That needs to match the current ordinance. Fair?
Fair.
All right. Do we have a second for Gary's motion?
Second.
All righty. Do we have any further discussion? Then I'll call the vote. All those in favor of approving the 2024 mineral mining license for the Meekhof mine, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, Mr. Meekhof, you have your permit for 2024. And thank you for updating your plans and working with us on this one. The next item on the agenda is 4.3, which is called the Cordis Mine. And do we have Mr. Cordis here? Or there's Mr. Cordis right there. Mr. Cordis, if you would come on up to the podium, we'll do the same thing. And engineer too, so that's good. And Paula, if you have comments on this one, if you would offer those at this time.
I do not have any comments to add for this mine. We have received all of the necessary documentation.
Okay. That's good to hear. And I believe this site also went through our staff review a couple of weeks ago, so we appreciate you doing that. It helps us redline the plans, you resubmit, and we're trying to make this more of an ordinance-based review from that standpoint. So, Mr. Cordis, why don't you kick off a discussion on what you did last year, what you propose to do this year?
All right. I'll step in for Mr. Cortez here. So again, on this mine, we're continuing to work the active face that's been worked for the last couple of years, pushing to the west, keeping in mind our no impact barrier on that west property line. We were able to get some planting done over on the northeast side of the mine. It was kind of in progress around the time last year we did this, so starting to see some vegetation established over there now, getting that area stabilized. And the plan is to keep working this active face and pull the material out as needed. Anything you need to add?
No, that about covers it.
Okay.
I'll just throw in a question, because I know this is actually a development potential mine. We have a reclamation plan that shows a large lot subdivision in this location with public water. Any feel for how much longer this mine will go?
How much longer?
Yeah, how many years? Generally speaking, we know that it's completely, it's dependent on the market, but what are you thinking at this time?
Well, we were thinking about 2027, but we'll see how, because we did move quite a bit of sand last year.
Yeah.
So, and we were able to really work on our contours on that west corner there, and kind of getting it to grade where it needs to be, as you can see if you compare to last year. And yeah, I mean, 2027 might be, that might be I'm not gonna commit to that, of course, but that's what my goal is.
Anything else from you folks? Any problems you encountered last year? Anything you expect to run into this year, or is it, feel like you've got it handled on this site by now?
Business as usual.
Business as usual at the Cordis mine. All righty. Well, then why don't we open it up for staff comments before we go to public hearing? Feel free to offer your comments.
Yeah, I think when we met a few weeks ago, I had 7 comments. We worked through them all. The only item I would have up there, and it's not a requirement, it's just to consider adding a tracking pad before you get to the paved driveway. I know when things get really wet, sometimes we have some tracking that goes on out to Maynard, and maybe that just cuts down on the number of times you have to sweep. That's up to the mining operations discretion, but just a suggestion.
All right, thanks, Travis. Good advice. This side of the table,
Nothing here.
nothing from anybody. Tracking is doing okay out there, and, all right. All right, then I would look for a motion to open the public hearing.
Thank you.
So moved. Support.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Folks, the public hearing is open. If you have any comments about this mine, feel free to come on up to the podium. And if you would, state your name and address. Yes, sir, come on up.
Hi, I'm Bob Berkman. I live on Kennewa Southwest. I just had a comment. You keep talking about this February 7 where you redlined. Are those what you redlined or so? Are they available for all of these?
What we did, and I think Steve may want to fill us in on this from a city commission perspective, we essentially did what we call staff site plan review on all these mines to shake them out from conditions from last year, and then also to make sure that their plans have what's required in the ordinance. And Steve, you may want to take it from there.
Yeah, essentially after last year's review, we ended up getting into a lot of technical details, and we thought that it might streamline the process for the public meeting to allow applicants to pre-submit their information, their submittals, so that they could take a broader look at all of the technical details and make sure that when they came to the meeting today, everything was ready and we weren't having to, I guess, iron out a bunch of particulars and make a bunch of changes. So what you see here is the submittals. The stuff that happened at the prior meeting was just staff's opportunity to take an advanced look at what they were considering submitting, and the larger goal is just to streamline this meeting, allow for the public to see the finished product instead of us having to send a bunch of notes and then not having the public opportunity to see everything in the final form that we're going to approve.
So the public wasn't allowed at this meeting?
Yeah, it wasn't a public meeting, it was a work group more so than.
Just curious. It sounds like, sounds a little shady, that's all.
Well, the goal is to make sure you're not.
You know what a skeptic I am, what I've
That's
been.
fine. I'm a skeptic of everything as well, and I know the
Okay.
environment we're in, but I think what Steve tried to do with this site plan review kind of session at the staff level is we were having problems with following up with conditions from previous years. So then we would get to this point and these mines would just not be keeping consistent with the conditions from previous years.
Amen.
So I think that was frustrating to everybody in the room. So what we tried to do, and I think Steve made a good recommendation, was do what we do with site plans that go to the planning commission. Require them to go to staff level review first so that everything that's in the ordinance needs to be on the plan. And I think you heard Scott catch that on the first review. So that's really the extent of it.
Okay.
So almost all those comments at the beginning were engineering related and like dimensions and contour labels and things that we didn't want to bore the whole group with that. You know, this is really a chance for the public to come in and make comments, for us to listen to the comments and work through solutions.
Since I'm retired, I got nothing but time to come over and crab, so.
I envy you. All right, any other comments on this one? Seeing none, look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Support?
I'll support it.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Public hearing is closed. Final comments, discussion with the developer or the applicant.
These guys always do a good job with this and are very attentive to our questions and concerns. I would motion to approve the Cordis sand mine at 731 Maynard Avenue with no conditions, I believe.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, then I would look for a vote to, on Scott's motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, Mr. Cordis, you've got your permit for 2024. And folks, just so you know, if issues arise at these mines, we are capable of meeting at any time during the year, and we've done that on several of these mines before. So don't feel that this is just a one-time and then we don't meet again for a year. If issues arise, inconsistencies with the approved plans and permits, then this board gets together, goes out to the site with the developer, and we figure out if we need to have another meeting to get things back in line with the approved plans. Okay. All righty. Let's go to number 4.4, Shoemaker and Sons Hauling, which is on the west side of Wilson Avenue. And I would ask Mr. Shoemaker and his engineer to come on up to the front. And before we get into that discussion, Paula, if you could walk through any comments you have.
Thank you, Frank. I believe for this mine, the only comment I have is that as of a few days ago, we have not yet received the soil erosion fees that are due. I'm not sure if you're aware.
That should have been dropped off at your office. We received a check from the Shoemaker mine and that was dropped off.
Okay, it may have not made it to me,
Okay.
but I will follow up on that. Thank you.
Okay. Let me get my bearings here for a second. All right, so why don't we get into discussion with the applicant and the engineer, and you can walk us through what you did last year, what you proposed to do this year. There's a quick glance at the future development plan on that site, another one where there's a large lot subdivision proposed sometime in the future. So that's the end goal, and then the plan that you see on the screen now is what they have been working on and what they propose to work on in 2024. So I'll hand it over to you folks to bring us up to speed.
Cool. On this mine, continued to work the active face located in the northwest corner of the site, pulling some material out. You can see the difference in contours between last year and this year. Not a whole lot changed as far as what was reclaimed this year. It's all pretty consolidated to where the mine is actively working. Again, business as usual on this one as well.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, it's driven by market demand, as, you know, as is normally the case. So I think we pulled about the same amount in last year as the year before. So it's coming out based upon demand.
I'll ask the same thing that we asked Mr. Shoemaker, or excuse me, Mr. Cordes. Knowing everything is market dependent, is there any long-term plan on this? Do you feel, is it a 5-year, is it a 10-year before you decide to redevelop this as a subdivision, or?
I can't speak to when it'll be redeveloped as a subdivision, but
Yeah.
from the mining operation, I would say it's roughly a 5-year.
Okay. All right, that's fair. Why don't we open it up to the board for comments?
There used to be a note on the plan about, if you were to discover groundwater in that northwest corner, see that. I just wanna make sure no one's lost sight of the concerns that are there.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I can double check that for you. I know exactly the note that you were talking about. If it's not on there, we will get that added back in.
All right, feel free to jump in.
So I have a few comments just to finish up with Chris. I don't think the this mine was able to make it to the around the table meeting, so Chris and I had a few phone conversations to work through the comments. And I think he's largely addressed them. So I think I just have 4 questions here. So Chris, we talked about the parcel transfer at 4470 in the mine. And I think we asked if you could find it to add the recording numbers on the plans. Were you able to track down those recording numbers?
I have not at this time, but they will be added to the plan
Okay.
After we're done here.
There's also a gravel road that shows crossing at 4470. And I think you explained to me that that's a mining road.
That's not a mining road, that's for the oil wells.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant, oil well road. I'll leave it up to your discretion on whether you want to add that, but I know these plans can get inundated with a lot of notes. But that kind of helps answer that question as to why is there this road that's going across private property. The other note that was a little confusing to me that we talked about was up on the east side of the site, 2227 Wilson. It says Tim's parcel added in 2006, mining not proposed. Sounded to me like that parcel was bought by the mining operator, but they're not going to mine on it. Is that correct?
That's correct. There will be no mining operations up there.
Okay. Okay, that clarifies that. And then just my last question was, I think on one of the plan sheets, it showed various compaction tests from as far back as 2015. I think 2015, 2017, 2018. I just wanted to make sure CDDs received copies of these. I mean, typically we get them the year after they're done, but we want to make sure that you have copies in your files.
We did receive copies of those.
Okay.
Paula, would you click in a couple to zoom so we can read some of the things on that drawing? All right. Thank you. Okay, other comments from this side? Nothing here? Mr. Connors?
I'd move to open the public hearing.
You are so efficient with time. All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Folks, public hearing is open on the Shoemaker sand mine. Feel free to come on up. Comments, questions, we'll do the best we can to get your questions answered. All right, no comments on this one. Then why don't we, oh, hold on.
You keep asking about future things, and originally this was supposed to be something different. You remember that? So it's some, what did they call it? Zero clearance or whatever it was, housing. And now it seems like I just saw a map that it was future development.
Yeah.
So which is it?
Well, what I can state, and the applicant can help me out a little bit if possible.
I assume that this is not, any of that's not cast in stone, is it?
Well, what they need to do is for sites that don't have the gypsum mines underneath them, the ordinance says you have to have a plan of end use, a reclamation plan, and then also what are you going to do with the property long term?
Yep.
So this site, the proposal long term is once the mining's done, they will then come in and apply for a large lot subdivision. We often don't know when that's going to happen.
Yep.
But they still need to show a realistic plan for an end use of the property.
But it's not cast in stone. They can do.
I would say it's ordinance compliant at this point. They're showing that they want to convert it to residential with a public streets and big lots. That's consistent with the zoning and the master plan.
That I have no complaint with it. The issue is that originally it was supposed to be something different, and now it's been changed.
That I can't recall. The site may not all be zoned residential at this time.
It probably isn't now, is it?
I don't think so. It's
No.
probably zoned.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
But it's not cast in stone that this is what it's gonna be. He at some point can come back in and say,
Yeah.
I want, small lots with, I mean, whether or
Yeah.
not you allow it or so on.
You can ask for pretty much anything,
But he don't have to do it that way, does he?
Well, what we try and do, and what the ordinance says, is they need to show a plan for end use that is consistent with the master plan of the city. And the master plans change over time, but in this part of town, I'll be honest with you, that it's probably not gonna change much because of the utility issues and groundwater and oil wells and all that. So the city is looking at that end use plan as a reasonable end use of the property.
Oh,
And if he
okay.
wants to come in and make a pitch for something different, then he's gonna have to go through the process, which is first a master plan review. And if his proposal is not consistent with the master plan, then there's a whole bunch of hoops he has to go
Yes.
through.
But Bob could build a house for himself right in the middle, and that would be the end of it.
He could do that too?
Yes, okay, that's all I was interested in.
All right.
He's doing a good job.
Good. Good to hear. Thank you, sir. Any other public comments on this one? All right, hearing none, how about a motion to close the public hearing?
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, public hearing is closed. How about final comments from anyone involved in this process, including the board up here for this annual permit requests?
Scott, I'm going back to your comment about the groundwater note. That is item 12 in the general notes on C300 and C301. Knew it was on there somewhere.
Okay.
Okay. Go on.
Do you say item 12?
C300?
It's there, I just caught it. It's hard to find.
Yeah, there's a water table. And thankfully, we haven't had any problems out there for years. But I think that's because you decided, we worked out here, that's just stay away from that northwest corner where
Yeah,
that,
and when we worked on this last, I believe we decided to add it to general notes because it's not really specific to one area of it. We wanted to cover the whole site.
Yeah.
So it made more sense to add it there.
appreciate that. Any further comments from anyone before we look for a motion? All right, no comments. The items that I've heard that are potentially outstanding, soil erosion fees, I don't know where we're at on that, whether we've received them or not, but we may just want to make that as a condition of approval, and if it's done, it's done. And the other thing I heard Travis say was LIBOR and page numbers to the plan regarding the transfer of property.
Yeah, 4470 Burton.
4470 Burton. So I recommend those conditions to whoever wants to craft a motion.
I would move to approve the mine application for 4480 Burton with the following conditions: that soil erosion fees be paid prior to March 1st, and secondly, that the recording numbers for the parcel at 4470, the additional parcel, that those numbers be added to the plan, and the plan be resubmitted by March 1st.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All right, then let's call the question. All those in favor of the motion and second, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Mr. Shoemaker, your group has your permit for 2024 with a couple of things to follow up on by March 1st. Next item on the agenda is what's called the Goodale Sand Mine, Goodale Pit. So we have applicant, engineer here too for you, Todd? All right, Chris is doing all the plans.
Sounds like it. You can just stand up here.
That's all right. Okay, so before we get into what you guys did last year, what you're proposing to do this year, any changes, any problems, Paula, if you would go through any comments you have.
We have received all of the necessary documentation for this mine, so for the things that I'm checking, they're good to go.
Okay, thank you. And gentlemen, what'd you do last year? What do you propose to do this year?
So quick update, the deer farm that was up on top of the hill, that's been closed, fence been removed. We put the fence up that I think was a condition of last year's permit, and then we also planted a bunch of plantings alongside the neighbors, the Bauman's house in the back there. Put about 60 arborvitaes back in there, planted those.
Are you actively mining this site yet?
Have not last year, nope.
Okay.
We're getting closer with the deer farm, was sort of the, up on top of the hill there. That was one of the challenges, that the fence was there.
Okay.
So we had to get that deer farm closed. DNR had to sign off on it, and then we had to remove the fence.
Okay.
So that was done last year. And then the other fence was put up on top of the hill.
All right.
Did you guys just let the deer go, or did you move them?
You know, there's a whole bunch of crazy rules. You can't just let them go. You had to either sell them or kill them.
All right. Chris, any comments from a technical standpoint?
Nope, nothing at this time. Pretty much I went out, did my site visit, put together that report for you guys, documenting what we're seeing out there. Outside of that, nothing of note.
All right. Any mining proposed this year?
I think we're starting to get borings and figure out what's there.
Okay. All right. Further comments, questions, clarifications from the board? Because eventually what's proposed on this site is pretty significant sand removal, right?
Yeah.
We just don't know when.
Correct. As the other mines come to end of life, we'll probably start beginning of life.
Okay. All right. Not hearing any comments from anyone up here. So why don't we get a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Support?
Support.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Folks, public hearing is open on this one, the Goodale Sand Mine. Feel free to come on up with questions and concerns.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Dowen. I live at 2550 O'Brien Road.
Okay.
Did I believe I hear this gentleman say that they planted some varieties of trees at the back of the Bauman residence or property? I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's,
Do you mean Dowen property? Is that what you meant, sir? Whose place? Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. How far away are they allowed to come up to the property line when they approach their boundaries
Yeah.
with their mining operation?
Let's ask their engineer to point out on the plan what's required for no disturb. It's based on the land use surrounding the site, but Chris, if you can, if you would come on up and explain that question for the gentleman. And maybe show it on your plan too. This shows why we require this information on the plans.
Yeah, so this was a comment that came up after the staff review, is why that driveway is located where it is.
And which driveway is that?
This would be off of Butterworth, the west driveway. There's the other driveway off to the east that's closed on a different parcel. This driveway was originally placed 24 years ago. This is as far back as our drawing records go. When this mine was originally permitted, there's the house located at the Bauman residence next to that. That parcel was split and sold after this mine was permitted. So there was an agreement there that the driveway would stay where it was. It is within that 30-foot buffer, but that's where the driveway was to begin with, and then the parcel split, sold, and a house was built on it. So the trees that Mr. Grassman mentioned earlier, those were planted in 2022 as a condition regarding concerns about equipment activity. There was the area of fill directly to the east that was finished up. There's plants growing on top of it now. It's not shown on this image because this is an old image, but in the report that was provided, you can see there's grass growing there now. And there hasn't been equipment activity on that either. So when the mine would activate, all that would be on this road would be trucks coming in and out.
And to answer the gentleman's question more specifically, 50-foot setback from any public road right-of-way, and you can see that on their plans, and then 30-foot setback from any property line.
Thank you. Appreciate your explanation, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions on this one? No? All right,
I'd move to close the public hearing.
we will look for a second on that.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Public hearing is closed, so why don't we do final comments on this one and consider a motion.
Just maybe a final comment. I feel for the residents that are out here, next to it, wondering what's gonna happen. But if they're not ready to sell the sand, they can just keep paying for the permit, just keep it going, so.
Yeah.
It's a tough spot.
As far as staff comments go, Chris and I worked through a lot of these previous to the meeting. There's one, Chris, I think the fence certification letter, which goes to community development, I think it still says fence required for 1-on-3 instead of 1-on-5. This is something that we saw across all the sites, so we had them all updated this year. I think we just forgot to catch this one. I just noticed
What's the date
that.
on that one?
The fence certification letter that you send to community development, I think it still says 1-on-3, it needs to say 1-on-5.
I'll double check that. That should have been resubmitted where it said 1-on-5 on that one as well, but I'll give it a double check.
Okay.
So,
So 1-on-5 on the fence letter. Okay, any other comments from the board? The only condition that I've heard so far is changing the fence letter from 1-on-3 slope to 1-on-5 slope. So with that said, if there's nothing else out there, then I would look for a motion with that condition.
If it was Travis's condition, I might suggest he make the motion.
Yeah, I'll try that. Never made a motion before, right? So,
It's not that hard.
so yeah, I'll go ahead and move that we approve the mineral mining permit application for 2851 Butterworth Drive, with one condition that the fence certification letter be revised to show fence required on all slopes greater than 1-on-5.
Okay, do we have a second for that?
Second.
Gary seconds. Any further discussion? Travis, I knew you could handle that motion. Travis used to jump out of airplanes, so I'm sure he can handle making the motion for a simple one like this. Appreciate that. Any other comments? Then how about a vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Mr. Goodale, you've got your permit for 2024 with one condition. All right. Last but certainly not least, we have the Stanley Orchards Mine, southwest corner of 3 Mile and Bristol. And I think we've got the applicant's engineer here. So if you folks would come on up, same process. And Paula, if you could walk us through your comments on this one.
Thank you. I believe I recently received the bond for this. That came in earlier this week, so we do have that. I do not have documentation showing, nope, that is that. Nope, that was our outstanding item from CDD, and we received that earlier this week, so that was the outstanding item for this project. I'm good.
Good to go? All right. Well, why don't you jump on in?
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Brad Myers, from Myers Behe and East, representing Stanley Orchards. A little update from last year. I don't know the exact totals that were taken out, but there was a considerable amount. I would think in the 100,000 to 150,000 range. Some of the areas that were, one of the big areas that we talked about at the review meeting was the pile of overburden. That's been addressed. That will be one of the first things that gets moved this spring, to get rid of Mount Stanley right there. Move that down into the lower area, phase 1, phase 2, so then we can reclaim those once and for all. We've cleaned those up a couple times and ended up with more overburden than what was originally thought to be on the site. So we're going to be moving that pile down into the low area to the west. Then this year we'll be continuing on from last year up in that area of phase 2 and phase 3, or phase 1 and 3. Trying to get that wrapped up. End of life of this one we're trying to hit within the next 2 years to wrap this thing up, because there's been considerable interest in development on the site, but it's kind of, with the mining operation going on there, it's been kind of a hindrance. So we're trying to get it, that resolved. Other than that.
Okay. And Paula, what's the end use plan on this one? Because this property is being actively marketed.
It, there's been a couple different things, but it's
Yeah.
like a light industrial.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been other contacts too.
Because Brad, your plans are really good, so I think we've got an end use plan in there somewhere, or we used to have it.
Yeah, I don't think,
Okay.
no, I don't think we have anything in this set for
Maybe
that,
something.
because it's been up in the air
Okay.
as to even consider what was going on there.
I think this is probably of all the sites the most critical though, because we've seen conceptual layouts that would include, you know, buildings that were insanely long,
Yes,
all the same floor. So making sure that they're not putting it on top of a whole bunch of loosely placed fill is really important.
correct, and that's why when we're gonna be moving about 15,000 cubic yards into phase 1 and phase 2, about an 8-inch lift, 8 inch to a foot, compaction test again over the top, like we did previous.
Okay.
So that'll be a ongoing way, because it's all overburden clay,
Yeah.
so careful where we place it.
This one's interesting to me because you're starting to get up into the nose of the fruit ridge. So you're starting to pick up that clay, much
Correct.
different than the south end of town, which is all that old river channel sand and gravel.
Yes,
So it's just from a soil management or soil science standpoint, this one's different, which is interesting.
yeah, and when we originally started this, the idea was to basically have 4-type tier
Yeah.
as we went through here. And then as people came in for, to purchase, to look at what they were doing, like Scott was saying, insanely long buildings, 1,100, 1,200 feet
Yeah.
long, with one floor. That's tough to do.
Yeah.
So we're kind of market driven on that also.
Well, Steve, this is your part of town, and I know your new realtor has reached out to city staff and the officials to talk about what's proposed on this site. We've seen some plans. Any comments on that, or any concerns, or?
For me,
Yeah.
my only big thing is making sure that whatever happens, we're being sensitive to the neighbors. I got a lot of folks that know me well who are constantly in contact asking me what's going to happen with the mines. So,
Oh, yes.
and it's by far the property I'm asked the most about these days. So, just want to make sure that as we're taking that next step in the what seems like relatively near future, and I think we hear about it. I feel like every year, couple of years, we hear some big ideas. So we'll be excited to see what comes, but it will come with some scrutiny for me at least.
Fair enough. Mr. Myers, do you have any other comments before we get more staff comments and then go to the public?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Before you walk away though, I think I have one comment that the active face there, I got to see that a month or so ago. I was out there trying to fill in and help out with an inspection, and it's really deep. And I didn't catch this during the staff review, but you're as much as 14, 16 feet deeper at elevation 726, which is a lot lower than the reclamation contour. So you gotta stop diving down there and get that cleaned up, and we definitely will have a condition for compaction tests there. But again, it's not, don't go right for the compaction test. We're gonna go extra deep, we'll just do the test.
No.
We don't want you to go deeper. You guys have been really good about this, so.
Right.
Especially in a spot like that where we've had complaints from the neighbors about vibrations, everything else.
Right.
We
Right.
don't wanna handle that area 2 or 3 times.
Right, we're gonna add some control in that area for the gentleman that's removing the material, to help out with that.
Okay.
I think it got a little out of control there.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is for condition for this year, Station 26, which is kind of in the center of the plan, needs compaction testing for the 25 permit. Is that fair?
Not station 26, but at elevation 726 is the low point in the active phase.
Okay. So elevation 726. All right. Any further comments before we look to open the public hearing?
I just had a question, Paula. I think on the plans it mentions a September 2022 compaction tests. Do we have those in our files? I didn't see them, but maybe they were submitted the previous year.
I didn't receive them this year. I have my last year's folders. I can check.
I just resubmitted them again.
So they're somewhere.
Either they keep coming over. They were submitted with all of that was one of the things they had on here, and we submitted those with those that were
Okay.
from 2022. So if you don't have them, please let me know.
Thanks.
Right away, and
Okay.
I'll send them.
We should have those in electronic somewhere, probably on BSNA.
Yeah.
I think that's the goal.
We sent them over as PDFs, so
Yeah.
you should have.
So Paula, maybe you can follow up with our staff up front and just make sure we have everything in BSNA going forward. Okay, how about a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Support?
I'll support it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is open on the Shoemaker excuse me. It's getting, my brain is leaving the room apparently. Stanley Orchards Mine. Public hearing is open. Anyone? Going once? Nobody. How about a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close?
Support it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is closed. Okay, final comments for the Stanley Orchards Mine and consideration of a motion.
If there's no comments, I'll try to craft one here. I do believe the only condition I heard was mine, was not mine, but belonged to me. So I guess I would propose that we approve the mining application for the Stanley Orchard site with one condition, and that be that mining below the 730 contour be ceased immediately at the active face, and compaction testing be provided for that area over this current mining year.
Scott, did I also hear the need for an end-use plan?
There should be something in the file, right?
Yeah, in previous years, Mr. Myers has given us an end-use plan that was consistent with the master plan. And there may have been some refinement to the master plan. So Paula, maybe if you would, and Megan would take a look at that and just make sure that it's consistent with the current master plan.
But Travis is right, and I would amend my motion to at least have you guys resubmit that plan as part of this plan set so that we're meeting the requirements. So I would amend my motion.
Just that one sheet?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Paula and Megan, our zoning administrator, will check that just to make sure that we're still going in the right direction. Even though we've seen industrial, we've seen police and fire training facilities, we've seen a variety of things on this site, but I think we, just like the other plans, we want to make sure that whatever you're proposing is consistent with the master plan. Okay, we've got a motion on the table with some conditions. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? And all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. Mr. Myers, Sandy, you have your permit for 2024. And we'll see what's proposed on this one for the rest of the year.
53 minutes, 54 minutes is a record.
That's right. Well, I'm just trying to make it technically complete. And I think Steve had a good idea for the site plan review committee on that one. Okay, we're on item 5, which is final comments from the board, staff comments.
I would just second thank Steve for letting us do the site plan review. I think we were able to work through this stuff pretty efficiently a few weeks ago, so this meeting didn't run all day long like it has in the past.
I agree.
I agree also.
Anything further?
Good job, everybody.
All right, well, good job, everyone. And then we will meet as needed for the rest of the year if issues arise on these sand mines. So if you have complaints, let us know, and then we check them in the field, and if necessary, we'll have meetings to get things back on course. Let's see, we're down to adjournment, so I would look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Support?
Support.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Drive careful out there.